Hi, welcome back. Now, in the previous session, we had discussed what a pivot table is, how to create a pivot table, and then we had discussed the basic structure of a pivot table, namely filters, columns, rows, values. So, now in this particular session, we'll start from where we had stopped. Now, we look at formatting of a pivot table, and then we look at options of summarize values field by and show values as. So now let's look at the formatting of the values. So over here I've got these salaries, but I want a currency sign in front of them. So because I want to format the values, which is salary over here, so I'll click on this drop down and I'll get this pop up. I'll click on value field settings. This particular prompt will appear. I'll click on number format, and we've already gone through this particular type of format cells dialog box. So I'll click on currency and then I'll click on OK. Now I can also change the name. So over here it's appearing as sum of salary, and over here also it's appearing as sum of salary. Let's remove off, but you can name it anything what you want. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's click on OK. So now it's showing us some salary 1, 2, 3, 4. And over here also the name has changed. Now when we click on value field settings, we've got these two options over here, summarize values by and show values as. So now let's look at these options. So over here you've got different options by which you can summarize your value field. So over here in the value field we've got salary. So right now Excel is automatically summing it, but we can also count it. As soon as I clicked on count, you may have noticed that the value over here in custom name changed to count of salary. If I click on OK, now the format, I need to change the format of it. So I'll go to value field settings because I'm counting. Let it be a number and click on OK. So now I've got 6 in total. So we were looking at male population which had an age of less than equal to 25. So for UK, US, I've got 6 employees in total. 3 of them in UK and 3 of them in US. Let's look at what average does. So this will give me average of salary. And let me just change the format also. Back to currency. So now one of the questions you may be asking is, how is this count or sum or average useful in terms of analyzing the data? So if you just look at this data set also, there are some observations which you can make out of it. If you want, you can pause the video for a couple of minutes and just think about it. Now, the first obvious thing is that the average salary for the entire population of males with less than equal to 25 age is $54,000. But what is more interesting is if you look at UK average salary and USA average salary. So the average salary in UK is slightly higher as compared to USA. And another thing to note over here is that people who have worked on less portfolios, they've got more salaries. Now, this might be something to do with the specialization which they have had in that particular field only, that they are getting good salaries. Now, let's drag and drop other variables also. Let's select age over here. I'll remove country. I'll click on remove field and I'll just drag age over here. And let's just clear filter from age. So now this is for all the male population. I can see that the average salary is around $55,000. And again, similar to what we had observed earlier, people who worked on less portfolios, they tend to earn a higher salary as compared to people who worked on multiple portfolios. And that might be because these people are again and again changing their jobs. So they are not able to build an experience and then they are not able to count on that. So this is how pivot can be used. You can drag and drop various variables and try and see if a particular trend is standing out. Over here, something what can be very easily noticed is that people working on less portfolios are earning more. Let's see if that particular observation is true for the female population also. So for the female population, it's more stable. So they are earning almost the same. It's just that there is one individual who worked on two portfolios and is earning less, but otherwise it's more or less consistent. So this is how pivot can be used to create different segments. Now let's just do a control Z. I'll go back to my original table. Now before we jump onto Max, uh, let me just copy and paste some data first. Count. Okay. Value field settings, Max, number format, it needs to be in currency. Okay. So when we are going to use Max, so as you can see over here, I've got two employees within this segment where the country is UK and the number of portfolios worked is one. So what Max operator will do is it will give the maximum salary of these two employees. So let's click on OK, 90,000. And the way you can check this is, so let's go to our data and search for males UK with one portfolio worked. So let's apply a filter and then we'll click on males, portfolios worked on one, and age less than equal to 25 and UK. So I've got these two employees. As you can see, the maximum salary of these two employees is $90,219, which is what our pivot table is now showing. Similarly, we can use the minimum option also, that will give the minimum salary of these two. Now the next option is product, but before jumping onto it, let me just first copy this first. So now as you can see over here, I've just got one employee. Over here, I've just got one employee. It's just that over here, I've got two employees, right? And we've already seen that the salary of these two employees is this. So let's just copy this to here. Let's see how the product works. So what product option does over here is it just multiplies 57,000 with 90,000. Because if you look at the other combinations, because it was just one customer over here, so that's why it's still the same. 26,000 is still 26,000 over here. 19 is still 19 over here. 87 is still 87. 46, 46. It's just that over here, this is the product of these two. So let's see. Yes, as you can see. So the product option just multiplies all the values within that particular segment. Let's just clear this. Now the next is count numbers. Let's see, for it to work, let me just remove salary again and let me put name. So right now I've got 6 employees, right? Now let's use count numbers. So as you can see, this is all zero, and that is because in name you have all character values. You don't have any numeric value. So that is why this will be equal to 0. Let's just do a control Z again. Similarly, you've got other options like standard deviation or variance, which are just used to calculate standard deviation or variance within those particular segments. Now let's move on to show values as. Now by default, this will show as no calculation. Over here, we've got country selected. So we'll just calculate the values on the basis of this. So the first option is percent of grand total. uh, Now this will display the percentage of the value across these different combinations out of the grand total. So let's just click on OK. If you sum this up, this is 100%. If you sum this up, this is 100%. So how it will work is, let me just copy the data first. Let's just use no calculation over here, and let me just count. So I'm just copying this data so that when we do those calculations, it will make sense to us. Let me just change the format. Currency, dollars. Okay. Okay. Now we'll again go back to value field settings. Show value as percent of grand total. Okay. So for 147k dollars, I've got 45 percentage over it. But what is this being calculated from? Let's see. If I click on percentage. So as you can see, using percent of grand total, for each and every value, it will take a percentage out of the total value. So for this particular value over here, it's taking a percentage out of this entire chunk. Similarly for this, it will divide it by this and calculate a percentage basically. Wherever the values are not there, it will give a 0%. Let's look at other options. Percent of column total. Now each and every column will sum up to 100%. So 147k out of 194k is 75%. Similarly, where values are 0, this will be 100%. So for example, in this case, column 2, we've got the total value as $87,000. For UK, this value is 0. And for USA, the entire $87,000 is coming from USA. So that is why for USA, this is 100%, whereas for UK, this is 0. So basically it displays the value as a percentage of the total value of that column. Now let's look at another option. Value field settings, values, percent of row total. Now this is similar to the column total, just that now the row total will be 100%. So 147k out of 174k is 84%. Wherever the value is 0, it will be 0%. Now let's look at the next option. Percent of, let's consider the base item as UK and click on OK. I'll just do some formatting to make it more readable. Right. So it displays value across different combinations as a percentage of the value of the base item in the base field. Now in our example over here, we've considered the base field as country and the base item as UK. So because we've considered UK as the base item, so what Excel will do is it will divide all the values in say column label 1 with 147k. So 46k out of 147k is 31%. Let's see. As you can see, it's 31%. Similarly, because there is no value present for UK over here, we don't have any value coming out here. Now for column label 3, when we divide 26k with itself, it will be 100%. But because there is no value over here, we are getting a hash null error. Similarly, for column label 4, because we do not have any value over here, so we cannot divide $19,000 by anything. So that is why we are not getting any value over here also. Let's see if we change this to USA. So value field settings, show values. So let's consider USA as our base item now. So basically what is happening is now we are calculating the percentage of the value based on USA. So is equal to this divided by this 314%. Because USA is a base item, this is 100%, this is 100%, and this is also 100% over here. For USA, for column label 3, we do not have any value, so that is why this is null over here. Now let's look at the next one. Difference from. Okay. Now over here again, because we've considered UK as a base item, so when we'll subtract 147k with itself, it will be 0. When we'll subtract 26k with itself, it will be 0. But when we'll subtract 147k from 46k, we'll get minus 100k. Similarly, wherever UK is 0, this value remains the same for US. Over here, since for USA we had this value as 0, when we'll subtract $26,000 from 0, we'll get minus $26,000. Now let's look at one more option. So it displays values as a percentage difference from the value of the base item in the base field. So first Excel will calculate the difference as we had shown earlier using difference from, and then divides the difference with the UK value in the column. So let's see how this works. When we'll subtract 147k from 46k, we get minus 100k, something what we were getting earlier also. And then we calculate this divided by this. So we are getting 68.24%. So basically, because UK is the base item over here, it is subtracting base item from this, and then it is dividing the difference with the base item. Now let's play with the pivot. I'll delete this and I'll go back to no calculation. Now over here I've just got the salary, right? Now let's say if I also want to look at the number of employees. So I can drag one more variable over here, and now I've got the number of employees also across these different combinations. So I've got the sum of salary and I've also got the number of employees. Let me just change the name. Let's remove country. Let's put age in here and let's clear filters. Now I can take the maximum salary also. So let's see value field settings, maximum. So now I've got the max salary also. So this is one way by which you can explore more options in the pivot table. Now let's just remove the number of portfolios worked in, and let's remove the filter from here. So now I've got 25 employees. The maximum salary is $98,000. I can again add the salary variable over here. Let's say I just want the sum of salary also now. So I can summarize as many variables over here as I want to. Now, apart from using these sum, count, average, max, min options, or the different options like percent of or percent of column total, percent of grand total, we can also use calculated fields in a pivot table. So let's just see how this works. So you click on the pivot table, go to the analyze toolbar. Now click on field items and sets and click on calculated field. Now let's say I want the average amount of salary being given to an age group based on successful cases completed by the employees in that age group. So I will click on calculated field. In the name section, let me mention the name as average commission per case. And in the field section, because I want to find the average salary per successful case, I will first click on salary, insert field, and then I'll use a divide operator and click on successful cases, again insert field, and then click on OK. So now Excel has automatically created a calculated field. Now just like you can add more fields to your pivot table, you can also add more data to your existing data, which is acting as the input or the source data for your pivot table. So all you need to do is go to your data set, and let's say you want a variable called t. Let me just put some random values in it right now. Now if I go back to my pivot, this will not at the moment show me the variable t, and that is because I've not told pivot that the data source has got updated. And for that, what I need to do is I need to go to analyze, I need to go to change data source, click on change data source, and now I need to consider the updated data range and click on OK. So now as you can see, T is appearing over here now. I can also click on refresh. Now with this done, what I would suggest you to do is use the sample data and try and identify trends in that data using a pivot table. Use the different options in a pivot table and get used to them. In the next session, we'll discuss graphs and then we'll discuss some basic pivot table options. Thank you.